In this project, what you're going to do is create a whimsical tree, and in the background you'll have 6 sections of almost a tie-dye effect of the watercolor, and in the front is going to be the ink tree, and it'll have a trunk, 4 limbs at least maybe 3 big spirals, 3 small spirals, 3 different textures, and I'm going to show you that now. To begin with, what you're going to need is a piece of watercolor paper. Now this paper is rather expensive, so please take good care of it. 1 sheet per person, and guard it well. And what's going to happen is, first of all, put your name on the bottom. Next, the things you're going to need are a pencil. This is called a wash brush, or it's a bigger brush than you've used before. And that's going to be for putting a lot of water down all at once. You're going to need probably a number 6 brush, paints, newspaper, water, and there's going to be a little salt at your table, and also masking tape. Next, you're going to need 3 pieces of masking tape. I've got a wide one and 2 narrower ones like this. And what I'm going to do is divide up my paper into 6 sections using these 3 pieces of masking tape. To create my first wash, what I'm going to do is go down to this corner right here on the lower left, and I'm going to take clean water and I put it down, get the paper really wet. Now this paper is going to curl, so be aware of that, because it's like cloth. When it gets wet, it stretches. When it dries, it shrinks. And because it's a thicker paper, it's going to have a different effect than the other paper you've been using. So then put some water down like this. And what I'm going to do is use red. Please be very careful with your paints to try to keep the paints in the little compartments so that they don't get too mixed up for other people to use. So when I use the red, I'll put the water in here like this, and then I'm going to put it on the paper, and you're going to see it kind of spreads out a little bit, and experiment with it. See what you can do to kind of get this effect going on here like this. Now watercolor paper, when the water is on the paper and the color is on there, it's going to look darker than when it dries. So when it dries, it's going to be lighter. So as I get this down here and I go, oh, that looks really good, but then I want to get it a little darker so that when it dries, it has the effect that I want. So I can put this down here, and you can also move it around a little bit by doing swirls like this and having some fun with it. Then I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to drop a few drops of purple in there on it. And the purple's right here. So I'm taking my number 6 brush, and I'm going to take my fingers and kind of squeeze like this and let it drop in there. Kind of squeeze it out as it comes to the end. Then I'm going to pick up just a little bit more and drop it up here in the corner, and you'll see it kind of starts to bleed out and create this kind of almost root system on there. And I can even take my brush and go along and work it into it just a little bit, kind of move it around. So that's number 1. On the second section, what I'm going to do is just put water down over top like this, and this time I'm going to use green. Make sure your water's clean. You might have to wash it out as you're working on these. So let me go to the green and get some of that. Again, try to keep your paints as clean as possible. And then I'm going to put the green down, and you see how it just kind of runs down here like this. I like this effect here, and so you can put some green specks in there and get it kind of working around. The paper has to be wet so that the paints blend and turn to these different effects. And Then I'm going to take some green and put some more drops on it, like this, so that it has this dark corner up here and it goes to this lighter area down here. And now what I'm going to do is take my brush, squeeze out some of this water like this. So I put my finger on the side, squeeze the water out. Now your brush is a sponge, so you can take it and actually pull up some of the color with it and experiment with that. So then you've got this effect going on here where the brush is actually acting like a vacuum. On this next section, what I'm going to do is take some water and get it wet. By the way, I went over to the sink and cleaned my water out, and I've got some fresh clean water. I'm going to take, again, the red and put that section up here, put a little bit more water in it. Use a little bit more of this, the water in here. And then I'm going to put this on here and fill it in with some red. So I've got like this much salt, and what I'm going to do is sprinkle it, and what it's going to do is going to crystallize and create almost like snowflakes on your paper that when it dries. So I'm going to have it kind of go from here down to here and up to here. What I'm going to do now is take and put a drop of red right in this section here because it's still wet. So I take my brush and I squeeze it. I drop it there like this, and you can see it kind of bleeding out through there, so it's going to give it a kind of an interesting effect there. Next, over in here, I'm going to put water down. And this time I'm going to use orange. And start with my orange. Actually, I'm going to take my 6 and use the yellow. Mix up some of that. I'm going to put some drops in there so you can see these drops of yellow like this. Then I'm going to take the red and pick up just a little bit. Notice I clean my brush out before I go to another color. And then I'm going to do a drop of red up here and do a drop of red down here. So they're kind of this tie-dye effect. Now, let's do green up in this section right here. Green, and see how that just kind of goes out. Because I'm going to go in the corners and do it there, in the corners here. Now let me use the blue. I'm going to squeeze it so it drops down like that. And squeeze some over here so it drops down here. And drops down here. Again here. So I've got this section here. And then I'm going to get that all set. Now I'm going to take my 6 brush and move it around kind of in a spiral. Let me take up some more blue and get that kind of working around like this. So I'm going to take a little bit of salt and put it in the corner down here and put it in this middle right here, and we're going to see what that does with this. Now in the last corner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put clean water down, and I'm going to use purple. Start putting drops of it. This time I'm just going to let the purple kind of blend together in some neat, unique ways. Let me use a 6 and see if we can do some swirling with it. So if I take that and kind of make my brush a little bit dry and kind of pull it around a little bit. So it's got some different effects going on. Let's bring this up, bring this over. Now, I'm going to put a few drops of red in there. And then we're going to see what happens when it dries. I'm going to also put a little bit more salt up in there too. Now the background sheet is dry. You're going to have to let yours dry overnight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the tape off. And when you peel the tape off, very carefully you pull it straight back instead of lifting it up, but you pull it straight back very carefully like this. And that way it kind of breaks the surface and there's less chance of it tearing your paper. If it does tear your paper, that's not the end of the world. You can still use it, but you can see how it gives it a nice clean white line here. And then I'm going to peel this one back here and just peel again straight back like this. And that way it gives you that nice clean edge. Now, this one did tear the paper a little bit. You can see these edges here, but that'll still work okay. This one came off a little bit better. Again, make sure that when you start putting your tape down, you just put down gently, don't push down too hard, and that should work. Now let's take the salt off. What I do is once it's dried, you kind of brush it back and forth like this. And so here's the final background that you're going to use for your tree. And it's got some nice swirling going down here with the crystals here, here. And so next we're going to put the tree on the top.